Namaskar. It is a pleasure to have Shipra Deo with us today. I consider Shipra to be one of the very strong veterans in the field of women rights in agriculture and land ownership. She has been working on this subject for last more than 2 decades and has been working in India and abroad on many of these aspects. I am very thankful to you, Shipra, for giving us this time. And as already shared with you, we are conducting a hackathon. V means GIZ, Bird, and CDF are collectively conducting a hackathon where we are soliciting some innovative ideas which can enable the agriculture to grow in scenario of the climate change challenges which we are facing today. And within that, we feel that woman farmer is one of the focus areas on which we all should be thinking about. So to start with, I think I'd like to know, uh, to make the agriculture climate resilient, what is the importance of the land and land holding and land tenure, the land ownership? Uh, Climate is something very important, which I would agree. But how can land be so important? What can be done on that? What aspects could be addressed on that? Would like to have your idea, please. Yes, Shipra.
So first of all, thank you, Dr. Malhotra, for inviting me for this discussion. And I think for nearly 10 years now, land has been at the center of my thinking process and whatever I do for women and for women farmers. So I have a lot of thinking around land-related things. And as you ask how land is important for climate resilient agriculture, I think land is the main ground on which not just we all live, but farmers do all their cultivation on this resource, which is called land. So their relationship with land plays a great role in their decision making as to what do they do out of that land. For example, if a person has stronger land rights, if their connection with the land is stronger, which means no one can evict the farmer from that particular piece of land. And if they have like full proof of land ownership of that particular piece of land, and they are sure that no one can evict them, then they will do investment in that piece of land which are in interest of climate. But if, for example, their land rights are not secure, the farmer is not sure that this piece of land will remain with him or her for the next season as well, they will not make all those judicious investments which are in interest of the climate. For example, I live in Lucknow, as you know, and recently I came across these mango orchards. We have huge mango orchards in and around Lucknow. So what happens is landowners of mango orchards, they give these orchards on lease to some middlemen.
Yeah.
When these middlemen take mango orchards on lease, what they are concerned with is just the produce. So if they have taken that orchard on lease for 1 year or for 2 seasons, what they do is they apply indiscriminate pesticides to prevent the crop from any insect or pest infestation or disease infestation without caring for what is it doing to the environment and the soil and the water. But if, for example, it's the farmer who owns that land, they are hugely considerate about the climate and the soil quality. Similarly, if people have to make investments on, on bundings and on soil solarization, or even if it is about leaving the land fallow, they take all these pains and make all these investments only when their land tenure is secure. And that is why it is important. And also there are numerous studies across the globe which have shown this. Studies have also shown that when women have the decision-making power, when women make decision, they make the decision in favor of climate and in harmony with the environment more often than men do so. So that is what brings me to strongly believe in the intersection of land and agriculture and climate.
Yeah, very aptly said by you. I think that's wonderful. Just for the sake of the audience, I think with your rich experience in India and abroad, what do you feel that what could be the strong elements of the land reforms or land ownership which the woman should have? Means there are laws already there in action. Probably you know better than me. How do you feel that these things, which if we empower the woman, if we want to make the most, and what are the skewed distribution of these laws in India itself? Do we have state-wise variations, or it's what is your comment on that? General take on that?
So when it comes to land ownership of women, firstly, we do not have very concrete data available as to how many women own land. And we do not have this concrete data simply because our land records, they do not capture the data in a sex disaggregated way.
Oh.
Revenue department, where we get our land registered, on the records traditionally we never had like it's a male or a female. So there is no way to make out how many women own land unless we have that record. However, the proxy studies and the micro studies which are done by various organizations, they suggest that this ownership lies between 7 to 14% at different places. And there are different data sets which suggest different things. And at the same time, there also are studies, and we all travel to rural areas and work with farmers. We know that more than 80% of the women who work in rural areas, they work in agriculture. So there is a huge gap. While there are so many women who work on agriculture, there are so little who own land. And this is despite the claims that have been made by our policymakers, that the claims that have been there in our constitution. And all of this is because of gaps in laws, and also because of gaps and challenges or inefficient implementation of whatever laws are there. Whatever rights laws have given us, they have not been translated into action in practice. So, for example, and this is especially true of agricultural land, because traditionally there have been a belief land to the tiller. So one who's at the time of independence, when land reforms were being carried out, and you talked about land reforms, the whole idea of these land reforms was, the crux was land to the tiller. One who tills should own the land. And who is the tiller? Always a male. When we say a word farmer, what comes in our mind? A male. It's the same which happens with the policymakers everywhere. So all the policies, etc., they are designed in a way that assume men to be the landowner. And then it's the men who end up owning land. And you also talked about like various state laws. I think in India, we have a whole web of land laws. There is a huge maze because land is a state subject. Agriculture is a state subject. So every state has different kinds of policies related to land. And when it comes to land ownership, there are generally speaking 3 ways in which people own land. One is they can buy from the market. Second is government gives land to the landless people in several states. And third is, and the most important is, receiving land through inheritance. So while in the Hindu Succession Act or in the Muslim Sharia law, there are provisions which say that women have equal land rights, and especially Hindu Succession Act after 2005 amendment give daughters by and large equal rights. One is that these rights do not translate into implementation. Daughters even today do not receive land as part of inheritance. But when it comes to agricultural land, every state has different laws and different provisions of inheritance for agricultural land. It is a bit complicated, but it is the fact. And especially in the northwestern states, which include Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, all these states have very, very discriminatory provisions for inheritance of land by all women, which includes daughters, wives, mothers, etc. If I go into depth of it, it will take a long time, but I think for now, uh, what I would mention is that there are incomplete rights to women in these laws, which needs to be addressed.
Yeah, right. I know, Shipra, you yourself are a woman and you have been traveling and working with the women farmers since last many years at the ground level. So what are the exact challenges which the woman farmer faces, both in terms of physical, financial, access, and other things, social, family? So what are the various challenges which you have found that they are really bothering or troubling? If those could be addressed, probably agriculture and the climate change could be adequately addressed. So can you just list out what are the major challenges which women farmers face in our nation today?
I think one of the first challenge that women as farmers face is having an identity as a farmer.
Okay,
Because when we speak the word farmer, when we think of a farmer, we think of a man. That's how we have grown up.
right.
That's what we have seen everywhere. A farmer will be riding a bullock cart or riding a tractor and will have a turban on his head. So when we say word farmer, we think of a man. And what it does is, by default, all our policies and programs address a man as a farmer. They fail to address a woman as a farmer. And why I say this is, I have seen a lot of meetings, agriculture related programs happening on ground, at the policy level, in the government space, in the public sector, in the private sector. But all of these are hugely dominated by men. For example, if there is a government department, or even if there is a private sector company and they want to do an extension activity, say a training of farmers in rural areas, what's easiest for the extension worker, both in the private and the public sector, is to go to a village, call some male, mostly young males, and then have them around, do the dissemination exercise, do the training, or do the exposure visit, and come back. None of them makes explicit efforts to engage women. I have been to several KVKs. As part of KVK's objective and agenda and the targets, uh, of all, I mean, somewhere with KVKs, there are targets that of all the participants who come for training in KVKs, 33% should be women.
Right.
Okay. Now, what happens, what I have seen in my own experience, practical experiences, all these KVKs, to comply with these targets, what they do is organize trainings for women, but on either food processing, ketchup bana lo, chutney bana lo, achar bana lo, but not really on things related to agriculture, soil solarization, related to other advanced technologies of agriculture. Nobody bothers to include women in those trainings. And I think, this is one which kind of doesn't allow women to learn new skills. But I think the other challenges are when women do not know these newer avenues, they fail to benefit. They are not able to take benefit of these technologies. So they uh, do not, they are not able to make use of their full potential that they out of their engagement in agriculture. And then there are a lot of social stigmas which are associated with women's mobility, who women are talking to, what women are doing, etc. All of them pose challenges to women. I'll share an instance here. For example, I was working in district Pratapgarh, and what I learned by in interaction with women was that if there is a male farmer and there is a female farmer, there is a challenge in irrigation. You will say, how? Because in rural areas, electricity supply is not like 24 hours. So what happens is if there is a male farmer and if the electricity comes at midnight, say 1 a.m. in the midnight, that male farmer would go to his farm and he can irrigate his fields and come back. But for a female farmer, it becomes difficult to go to her farm at that time and do irrigate her fields. What's the result? The gap. So all these patriarchal contexts in which women live, the harsh realities which surround women, which includes the violence, which include the social stigma, the social stereotypes, all of them impact women farmers equally.
Shipra, I think this leads to another point is that you know very well of the late, there has been a lot of emphasis of promoting many community institutions like SHGs or village organizations, particularly FPOs, and the FPO also, that too for women. So what is your experience or what is your take on the FPOs which exclusively deal with the women? Has that been some solution? Is there something good happening or they still need something? Because the government of India and particularly NABARD has been giving a lot of emphasis that FPOs need to be promoted. Now, women FPOs also catching up a lot. So, what is your advice on that?
So I think in all these policy spaces where we think of specific trainings for women, we think of specific FPOs of women, I think all of these are very good opportunities for us to work to elevate women farmers. But the challenge is, and something which I am skeptic about, is that these should not be done for the namesake. Are these really being done in the spirits? When there are women FPOs, are women really participating? Are women really making decisions there? Are their voices being heard? Or are they only becoming some, numbers on some papers that these are women FPOs? So that is something I would be concerned about. That is what I do see in a lot of development programs by national and international organizations. And that I think is happening with FPOs, if not at all places, at least at a number of places. So that is something which, I would underline here needs to be checked because women should not just be, just the number or just a checkbox. Women FPOs should not be a checkbox. Where if women are participating, we should be clear, what does it mean? Does it mean, women's participation in number, or is mean that women are allowed to speak? If women are allowed to speak, are their voices being heard? If we are hearing their voices, are we acting on their voices? Are we taking an action on, what they are saying? What is their need? All of those things.
Yeah, you're right, very right. This brings us to the last query which I have in mind is, in your word, what is the way forward?
I think the most important thing is that we need to change our mindsets. There is no shortcut to it. But since that is a long way forward and it requires things in a lot of different vertices. I think policy making and good intentions, all of them play a great role. And as I say this, I think, there is not just one thing or two things that needs to be done. But I think if we have like clarity about it and good intentions, clear intentions, then we will be able to make good policies. But until we have that, it's important that we are consciously aware of making gender responsive policies. And we are setting accountabilities for implementation of the gender responsive policies which are in place. And this will include reviews of land laws. This will include data management systems. That will include accountability of officials in revenue department, officials in agriculture department, all of that huge scale.
Right. Thank you, Shipra. So nice of you. So nice of you for giving us your time and your viewpoint and words of wisdom and experience, I believe, yes, a lot of work has yet to be done on women, agriculture, and climate change. Thank you very much and all the best.